Welcome back to the channel. Recently I've been at the BASE conference. A fellow farmer commented that I like going to conferences. I certainly enjoy the BASE conference. It comes early in the year and gives me the opportunity to reflect on the lessons that I've learnt during the previous year and to question the priorities for the coming harvest. So, what are our challenges? Water infiltration during the winter remains our number one priority, and we need to recognise what crops like growing in our environment. So let's just go out to the field and have a look at this problem. I'm in a field which has had a multi-species cover crop, and you'll see the serial volunteers behind me, but I just want to show you an issue we have. So most of the areas are sort of volunteers of about this sort of length, probably about a foot high. It's quite thick, but as we move across you'll see areas where, like this, where the cover crop is a bit thinner, and what we're having is, what I'm witnessing is these gullies developing. As you can see here, I mean, they're not spectacularly deep, obviously you see worse examples, but it's certainly the depth of the foot of my welly. And as you can see, and it's tracking this one back, I wonder if it's a spring. I'm just going backwards. Doesn't seem to be sort of coming out of the ground. It's just solid waterlogging. Now, the issue we had last year, that these areas stayed waterlogged for a long time, and as a result the drill went in deeper and we had that variable establishment, and so really there was less grew here last year, which meant that we had less stubble, we had less residue on the surface, we had less armour, and that has generated this situation. Safe to say, I have never seen this before. It's a real issue. It's a bad indictment of my soil care. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to be flowing out of the field. It seems to be terminating in the cover. So here you can see the channel developing, coming down through the middle of the dog. We are on a slight hillside, but not really much at all. We have some, no, I thought it might be clover, it's just a bit of weed. And then we come out to here, and you can see where the topsoil has washed out. It's actually quite sandy, but it terminates here in this sort of taller cover crop, bit of pooling here, but doesn't seem to be carrying any topsoil out of my hand, which is reassuring. But that is why I'm very concerned about runoff in this situation. And in fact, we're looking this week at having a drainage engineer come in. It's not a very big field, but I'm so embarrassed by this, putting a drainage scheme in here to try and put this underground. Assuming soils are a third water, a third air and a third minerals, our soils struggle to maintain its air fraction during the winter and often achieve anaerobic conditions, which leads to the release of nitrous oxide in waterlogged soils. I am actively considering more drainage this year. Our experience with rye last year was a real eye-opener. It certainly suits our soils and grows rapidly in the spring. Rapid stem extension in the spring generates plenty of above ground biomass atop an extensive and fibrous rooting system, which really helps fix soil carbon. In the US they use rye prior to maize, and that got me thinking, Could overwinter rye provide winter soil cover and weed suppression during a cash crop growing season? Our in-house trials have again clearly demonstrated that soil conditions were more important than drilling date in achieving spring yield. My agronomist introduced me to the old farming expression, fall is for date, spring is for soil, which I'd never heard before. We have grown spring wheat successfully, planted on the 6th of May, and our forage rye was cut on the 1st of June. Can we let the rye go through to stem extension and crimp prior to drilling in the spring? For example, targeting say the 15th of May and ignoring historic March to April drilling date. This would then offer the advantage of soil armour and weed suppression during the growing season and provide a cover crop with more winter and spring cover. However, a friend pointed out the rye to maize conversion doesn't provide a pest host continuity where the rye to wheat spring wheat would. However, my agronomist made the observation that again, spring wheat doesn't appear to suffer from BYDV and other aphid diseases to the extent that winter wheat does. There are certainly disadvantages to our current SW6 to AB14 continuous spring cereal rotation. Firstly, there isn't much diversity other than a multi-species cover crop, and certainly there are few varieties of milling spring wheat available. Secondly, and with a greater financial effect, the realistic guarantee of ergot infection discounts our sales by approximately £20 per tonne. It would be nice to grow some winter wheats and benefit from higher yields and with the potential higher financial returns. Finally, the impact of late harvest on the subsequent spring cover crops means that growing periods are short and hence limits the generation of biomass. Going forward, can we introduce a new rotation built around SFI options and achieve better financial returns? We have already investigated conversion from CSS to SFI, but conference season and the change in rates has given me renewed impetus to revisit our rotation. So, firstly, I started with investigating IPM3 companion cropping, which I was interested in from the point of view if we could use winter bean volunteers as my companion crop in order to qualify for the £55 payment. This appears to look possible. This would also help in a low nitrogen system, as you have beans there in the field to help support the wheat. So going backwards, let's look at winter beans. I've heard lots of comments saying that NUM3 will kill off winter beans, but looking at the numbers, a gross payment of 593 before any seed or establishment costs versus our 10-year winter bean gross margin of 765 would suggest beans wins versus NUM3. Let's return to winter wheat. With the correlation of low yield and quality protein, I'm keen to stick with milling varieties, and with an eye on the next crop in the rotation, we could go back to the old variety Cordial with its early maturity and proven milling abilities, which would give an early access into potentially all seed rape. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. We're going to pick up on the rest of this next week. Until then, thank you very much. give the video a thumbs up, click on subscribe, click on the bell to get notification of when our next video goes live. See you next time. Bye.